Hello everyone and welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back with my first thoughts and impressions of the new documentary that just dropped on Disney Plus, Obi-Wan Kenobi, A Jedi's Return. Firstly, I'm going to start by saying that I absolutely love Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think it's one of the best pieces of Star Wars media we've gotten in the past few years, and I'm really wondering if Andor is going to top it. But this documentary really got me hyped up to jump back into Star Wars, because right now, Rings of Power has my attention. We haven't really had a lot of Star Wars content because Andor is coming out soon, but not soon enough. But wow, did this documentary really, satisfy my hunger for more Star Wars content. I will say I was really surprised that we got this so late, because I know with The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, we got these documentaries sometimes a week or 2 weeks after the show finally ended. This one took a few months, but it was definitely worth the wait, and it was only an hour long, but it was an hour of some fantastic information on the inside and the making of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this that I don't really think I thought about during the time when I was watching the show is that there was so much heart and soul and love that went into this series, more so than we really think. And I was really surprised to learn that a lot of the choices and a lot of the story in the show was actually all credited to Ewan McGregor. He was an executive producer on the show as well as played the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he really had a big hand in talking to Disney as to what his character should be doing at this time, how he's feeling, where his life is going since the events of Revenge of the Sith. So I thought that was actually fantastic. And the documentary as a whole is very emotional because we deal with a lot of the return of these classic characters, especially Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. But the show also opened the door for a lot of new characters to be involved, and I really love just hearing all of their experiences with Star Wars growing up, especially O'Shea Jackson Jr. talking about how his whole family was obsessed with Star Wars and that he and his little sister used to listen to the soundtrack and fight with their lightsabers, because that's exactly what my childhood was growing up with the prequels. So being able to connect with the cast and crew with the same experience, because, we were all kids when the prequels came out. This is now that those kids grew up to start making this show. It's just fantastic, and it's a kind of a surreal feeling to realize, like everyone had those same experiences that we had as kids, playing with lightsabers, playing outside. Everything was about Star Wars when we were kids. So it's really cool to see that we share those experiences with the people that are now making this show. Like they got lucky enough to officially play in that sandbox, and it's just cool to see what they come up with. One thing that really surprised me that I took away from this documentary was that the de-aging scene that everyone was talking about, the training sequence between Obi-Wan and Anakin, it's really interesting to learn that they did use de-aging. A lot of people were saying they didn't because it clearly does not look like it. They used very little, and you can tell because they mentioned the de-aging crew was there and they had a bunch of dots on their face to track their movements. But it's such an interesting takeaway to see that behind the scenes shots of them practicing that scene, they aged a lot more than we thought they did, so they probably used a pretty heavy amount of de-aging in this scene, just enough to make it look like they were younger, but not too much to make it look inauthentic. Because as a lot of us may know, we had a big issue with the Luke de-aging that we saw in the end of The Mandalorian. While it was fine, the first appearance of it was a little rough. They did polish it a lot for the Book of Boba Fett, but you get to a point where de-aging helps the role of the character, but too much of it makes it inauthentic and it just looks strange, and you stop paying attention to the story because you're looking at their face going, something's not right here. Your face is moving very strange. So I think they did just the right amount to at least try to numb it down a little bit, because obviously they do look different in this scene, but I think too much would have washed it out. It's almost like using too much saturation in a photo. But a lot of the scenes, just seeing Ewan go through the prop master designs and seeing like his old lightsaber from episode 3 and taking him a moment to realize, yeah, this was the lightsaber I had. It's been so long since I've seen it. It's such a cool feeling. And then seeing Hayden go into costume and then getting the Jedi robes put back on, he mentions that he never thought he'd be able to do that again. And for him to be able to play both episode 2 and episode 3 Anakin in one series, as well as Darth Vader, I think it's just insane that you get to be all of these different versions of yourself. And in fact, the first scene they actually shot was him as episode 3 when Obi-Wan sees him off in the distance. When he turns around, he's got his hood up. Interestingly enough, I thought it was still episode 2 Anakin because he's got the hood up, you can't really see the hair, but they went above and beyond. They even put the wig back on him, followed by the hood. And the coolest part about that was his first day on set, and they were told that Ewan had already wrapped for the day, and they were trying to get him to go home, but he wanted to stay so he could greet Hayden. So Hayden is way out in the distance, ready for the scene, and he's looking around, and he asks Deborah where Ewan is, and she says that, oh, he's up by the camera. So he looks around, he can't see him, and he just shouts, Obi-Wan! And just a hand goes up. And I was like, that's just got to be such a cool feeling to be reunited with someone that you consider to be, you know, a brother. They spent so much time together for episodes 2 and 3, having them come back and just connect again after so many years. It's empowering, it's inspiring, you know, and for us, the younger generation of fans that grew up with them, seeing them reunite on screen, it's a big pull on the heartstrings. It's such a great moment to see. And while I already do love the show Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think this makes me appreciate it a lot more, seeing like what went into the show, how much of who was involved. You know, I love seeing these behind the scenes documentaries. I used to watch within a minute the making of episode 3 religiously, just because I was bored. It's just so cool to see how these movies are made. So this really makes me appreciate the series more as a whole, because I get to see what went into making it and what everyone's feelings and emotions and reactions were on set. But if you haven't seen it, it came out today on Disney Plus. Obi-Wan Kenobi: A Jedi's Return, 1-hour documentary. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Star Wars in any capacity. So to those of us who loved the show, this documentary is definitely for you. And if you're a little iffy or you did not like the show, that's all right. I definitely think you should see the documentary though, because even if it doesn't help you like the show more, it's still a very well-made documentary. But if you've already seen A Jedi's Return, let me know all your thoughts on the documentary down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you think it was too short? Did you want to see more? What was your favorite moment in the documentary? Put it all down in the comments. But until our next Star Wars announcement, which hopefully will be later today, I'm looking forward to potentially a Mandalorian Season 3 trailer. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you to everyone that stuck around to this point, and we hope to see you again very soon.